Hello, I'm Ingrid Murphy and I'm a creator on the East DC project here at Cardiff School of Art and Design, where I'm also a principal lecturer. And today I'm going to be talking to you about ceramic thinging.
So what do I mean by ceramic thinging? Well, Malaforus describes it as making things to engage and make sense of the world around us, things that shape the boundaries of our thinking. And if we do that, that is what we call creative thingers. As a ceramic artist, I've spent years thinging, trying to extend our ways of thinking and experiencing ceramic objects. These objects have become increasingly interactive, working with a range of technologies from physical computing to AR and VR augmentation, into connectivity, exploring not only how we can extend and experience these objects, but also how they are formed and fabricated. Here is a set of ceramic figurines which were created by dancing in a virtual reality domain. My thinking is largely focused on domestic ceramics. These familiar and overlooked objects of our lives offer us a rich material culture to work with, as well as distinctive material characteristics to draw on and exploit. As essentially an object maker, I'm interested in how thinging uses a more phenomenological approach for us to move away from static objects to more relational transactions between people and things. And it is this essence that I'm trying to explore in this body of work. So how and what can we sensorially extract from to extend and enhance our experience of these domestic objects? In the first instance, I focused on the inherent orality of the objects. And can I tell you, in a hard lockdown in France, finding participants or audience to engage in this work was not easy. So the act of poiesis is significant for me as a maker. It's that starting with such a base material, that act of bringing something into being, it can be an intensely physical process. It can be a very physical act, and we can get lost in this process, a process in which things can emerge through ways of doing, or material variability, or sometimes sheer gravity, which can't always be predetermined. But working in ceramics, you realize that there is an explicit value in intactness. The fragility of work fills it with this potent energy, and that intactness holding each atom or platelet in place, giving it form, but also giving it value. But then, as we all know, it ever so frequently smashes. The sound of breaking ceramics is visceral, really visceral to a ceramicist. That moment of impact where value is lost. But for me, it is also beautiful. So for this first work I'm going to discuss, called Shard, I wanted to explore this notion of smashing and what it gave us. I cast many pots of varying thicknesses, fired them to different temperatures, and then I began to break them, each one making its own distinctive sound on impact. I recorded those sounds, and then by creating some form of almost perverse reverse kintsugi, I glazed each broken edge and then lustered each edge with 22 karat gold luster, which is a highly conductive surface. However, these pots were never to be repaired. And this is the resulting work, Shard, which will be exhibited at CSAD for the festival. Here, the viewer encounters the broken shards, and each lustered edge, using touch capacitance sensing, will reveal the sound of the pot smashing. By using the different thicknesses and the different firing temperatures, I was able to get different modularity to the sound. And the sound was in no way enhanced or digitally enhanced. It is just a true but slowed recording of that moment of impact. And in this way, I hope to bring some value to the valueless and heighten our sense of ceramics materiality and fragility. So what follows next is a series of explorations in objects with more generative interfaces. Having linked objects to their own pre-recorded sounds, I was keen to see how we would experience them if they were able to generate sound by how we interact with them. At this point, I have to confess to possessing no musical skills whatsoever, so it will become incredibly apparent, so I do apologize. But working with some crude homemade theremins, I began to explore through the object theremin by extending the aerial through judicious placement of gold luster, how I could use these lidded vessels, the lids, as controllers for a theremin controlling pitch and sound. I like to foresee this as my spouse's funerary urns. I then began exploring how lustered pattern could become a more responsive interface, and this was my first plate synth, completed in 2019. Linking the gilded pattern to a simple Ardu-Touch synth. I enjoyed seeing how the audience interacted with the work really quite differently, and then developed a further piece which will be on exhibition at CSAD entitled Soundwave. Here I patterned the luster to visually represent the sound it was producing. For demonstration purposes, this work is wired. However, in exhibition, it will have integral circuitry through the marquetry of the table, so the plates will be free moving and completely functional. I also upgraded to a MIDI system to improve the, to be able to increase the range of sounds available. So in this work, we're looking at notions of touch and sound, and I like to refer to Ingrid's description of leaky objects here. Objects that can communicate more through their touch. We all know certain forms that ask to be touched, and these large archetypal bowls provided a good vehicle for exploration. In this object hold, the gold luster invites the fingers to touch the form, and the sound invites you to hold. It was interesting to see how sound could enhance and encourage that sort of interaction. So working on objects of this scale and with these materials, I was keen for the viewer to experience something of the materiality that I experience in making them. So this work explores the fluidity of the clay I use, which I work with, and using glazed and unglazed surfaces brings very different tactile and aural qualities when engaging with the work. So this will give you a sense of the scale. And here's the fired work. So as the hand moves across the surface, its experience really changes as it moves from the shiny glaze to the dry ceramics. And you have the sound of physical touch and also the electronic mediated touch simultaneously. Moving further with the exploration of the humble bowl, I was keen to explore gesture. How are these objects used? How can the gesture we use with them or their familiar function extend our experience of them or the circuit or the circuitry, as it were? So here I developed a conductive liquid that was poured into freestanding vessels. The circuitry is integral in the board here, so the conductivity of the pouring vessel ensures the touch capacitance is triggered for the sound. And these sounds were created by my co-creator on the East End project, John Piggott. And this led to the development of pour. Here, the gestural brushwork of the luster provides modulation in the connectivity, so affects the quality of sound. And I like this sense of chance element where the circuit connects or doesn't connect on the surface. I was surprised at the range of modularity I was getting in the sound here, but also how the form of the bowl is helping to inform that as well. And in the true act of poiesis, much of this could not be predetermined. And lastly, extending the interface. So this is a final work which brings together a number of these elements that I've explored. And this piece of work is entitled Alter. So here the gestural brushwork provides an interactive surface for the bowls to be placed and moved. Again, changes in that surface allow for modularity of sound, while the liquid can add an extra interactive dimension to the work. The concavity of the bowls with gold luster, its reflective qualities also is really interesting to interact with because you are represented back with yourself, that mirrored surface. So I want to end with two key elements that continuously inform my work. There are not many ceramicists engaged with technology as I am, but for me, I feel I agree here with Heidegger that it is a means by which we can reveal the truth. And also that as a material artist, technologies offer a way to potentially reveal the ongoing historicity of the matter that we both choose to work with and that we surround ourselves with. Thank you very much for listening to my talk today. If you'd like to get in touch, here are my contact details. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to my talk today. I'd like to point out that a number of these works will be on exhibition for the festival at Cardiff from the 3rd to 6th of March. And all of these works are viewable without my voiceover in our online gallery. Thank you.